Hi,
Hi,
Rachel.
how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for doing this.
No problem. Thank you
You're
for
the you're
having
the first you're the first one that I'm ever doing this with, so it's an honor for me.
me. Okay, good.
But
Same.
but it also I think it's so important. So I'm first taking my glasses off because I could see better old eyes. I think everybody needs encouragement,
Yep.
strength, happiness, chizuk, and I, along with everybody else, need the anxiety relief. It comes in waves.
Yeah.
At night, I was last night a little panicky. This morning, the sunshine came out. I felt a little bit better. And I still want to wake up from a dream that this is not really happening.
I think we all feel the same way. Um, okay, so you actually had sent me some questions that I want to look at also. So I'm going to look at
Yeah.
those.
So
Um,
I think people have mentioned me a lot of things. I think anxiety is a big one.
yeah.
First of all, Rachel, everyone who doesn't know who Rachel is here, she's a licensed therapist. Tell us more of who you are and what you do.
Yes. Okay. So I am a licensed mental health counselor. I work in the five towns. I work with kids. I work with adults. I work with women with infertility. A lot of what I work with in my practice is anxiety. So this is just something I deal with all the time. And now is a time where we are definitely feeling anxiety. I think even people who are not typically anxious are feeling very anxious. We're just living in a time of just real uncertainty. And I think it's not even, I was actually talking with a friend, Rachel Herkman, who's also a great therapist, who's on Instagram, and you guys can follow her. And we were talking about how it's not even so much anxiety, it's fear. We're all living with this intense fear because some of our basic needs are not being met. You know, we have that hierarchy of needs. We have this need for safety and this need for love and for food and shelter. And a lot of those needs are kind of being threatened right now. So a lot of us feel intense fear. So everything that you are experiencing right now, everybody out there is normal and healthy. And I don't want people to say, like, maybe I shouldn't be scared or maybe I shouldn't feel so uptight or stressed or anxious. Like, of course you should, because we're facing a lot of unknowns. We're facing a lot of scary information, you know, and I'm going to get to that a little bit more, how to do that. And so what our brain is telling us is like, we're in trouble. And when your brain feels like you're in trouble, it goes into this like fight or flight, right? You might have heard that before, fight, flight, or freeze, where
Like
your brain,
somebody's even writing, we have zero idea what to do. First of all, I think we're all in the same boat. This is
yeah,
all new territory. This is surreal and this is happening.
yeah, yeah. And everyone's kind of figuring it out as they go along. Even medical experts are figuring it out as they go along. So we don't have answers. And again, that makes it feel even scarier. But I think just that point alone of like acknowledging like we don't have the answers and we don't know a lot. So I'm going to take whatever little information I get as it comes. I'm going to take it. But again, we need to be like very mindful of where we're getting our information from. So it should be from one or two reputable sources. I always say go to the CDC, Center for Disease Control, or the World Health Organization, or if you have medical experts in your community that are guiding your community, listen to them. So really just like being.
By the way, that's a big one. Like I think I'm asking this on behalf of a lot of people. Who do we listen to? I mean, literally my phone has been on notification alert every 3 minutes. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure a lot of you saw that joke where I didn't see any alerts in 3 minutes. I thought the whole world died.
right.
But the truth is that it's absurd, and we hear some truth, some. On Friday, I got like a WhatsApp that New York is shutting everything down. Saturday at 5 p.m. Everybody, get yourself ready. It didn't happen. It wasn't true. So
Yeah.
how do we filter what's true, what's not true, and also not to take it so it's happening? We will. First, I think I'm going to say this shall pass. It will pass.
Yes, yes. There will be an end. We don't know when, but that is something that everyone should keep in mind. Like there will be an end in sight. And even if we don't know when that will be, we can focus on we really can focus on, and we should focus on every day, one day at a time, what we can control and the new information that comes out. So again, following the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, or the World Health Organization, those should be like the two main news sources. And then limiting whatever like news you're following. So I would say definitely like Instagram is not the place for news. Your WhatsApp chats are not the place for news. And if you're in a WhatsApp chat that like people just like quickly forward the minute they get something and they're not like looking to see if it's legit, and it's like, I always say like the indicator is if it says, please share with as many people as possible, like that's an indicator that it's probably not real and it's false information. So there was something going around like from supposedly like the board of medical directors at Stanford University. And at the bottom of it, it was like, please share. And it wasn't true. It was false information. And then when you went to the Stanford University website, they said, there's an email going around in our name and it's not true. So go and look it up. If something says Stanford Board of Directors, go to Stanford, hospital, Google it and go to their website and check if it's real. Like you guys have to be your own investigators. Don't just take everything at face value because that's going to stress you out, especially if your kids then, if you have teenagers for sure, that they're on social media with their friends, if they're going to hear something and come to you and be like, oh my God, I heard that the rabbi that was what's it called? I'm blanking on the name, in the hospital at NYU, he died. And then we find out, no, he didn't die. Like he's not doing well, but he's still alive. Like we're making rumors that people are dying now. You have to be able to like verify for your kids information because then they're going to be stressed out if they don't know what to believe. So you kind of play like investigator and teach your kids also to kind of be wary of whatever they get. So, okay, I know that your friends are sending stuff on the WhatsApp group, but like, just bring it to me and let's talk about it. Let's see what's real. We can't believe everything that's out there. There's a lot of rumors flying around. People are, grabbing bits of information from people that are not necessarily telling the truth or websites that are just making stuff up and then they're spreading it. We have to be informed consumers.
Also, I think people are saying things like, this is going to go on for the next, and this is not true, I'm just giving a number, for the next 10 years, which is not. I'm just giving you a crazy number, guys.
Right.
But I'm saying this is going to go on for the next 6 weeks, 4 weeks, through 2 weeks. Nobody really knows what, it's not true. And they take it as almost like fact. There's no facts. I don't think they know.
No.
And also, I love also all these rabbanim that their people are quoting or saying that this is happening because of A, B, and C. Or if we were A, B, and C, it almost brings me back to all those stories with, the Holocaust, where like it happened because of ABC. No one knows why it happens, and we just have to do our best to get out of it.
And that's not helpful. I always say in times like these, like it really bothers me when people start like as if they have a direct line to Hashem, that they know why something is happening. And I always say, if you want to introspect and look at yourself and say, you know what does this mean to me? And how can I better myself and grow from this? Myself, what lessons do I need to take from this? Then please do that. I think that's a wonderful thing. But don't make it a lesson for the world at large, for the greater world. You don't know. And I think it just makes people stressed out. And I always say, like, that's not a God that I want to believe in. A God that because I'm not behaving, he makes people sick and die all around the world. Like, that's just not a loving God. That's not the God that we believe in. We don't believe that he functions that way, that he hurts us and he's vindictive and he's punishing because we're not behaving. So if you want to take a lesson for yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to take this time to introspect and to work on myself because, yeah, this is serious. And I'm realizing that maybe I take things for granted, or maybe I'm too focused on silly things, or maybe I always think I'm in control and I'm realizing I'm not. So I want to, be more aware of God in my life. I'm going to work on that. But don't make it like everybody has to. It's because you're not careful, because people are making too big, bar mitzvahs, too lavish, we don't know, and it's just silly. And I think it just makes a divide with people and it's shaming people. Let's just stick to introspecting for ourselves and thinking what we need to do. So I think
I guess number one, anxiety. I think people want to know what's a good tip or how to deal with this anxiety, and how do the kids deal with the anxiety?
Right. So the first thing I would say is that you have to first validate yourself. You need to understand that all feelings are normal. There is no such thing as something that's like unusual, the way you're feeling. And people are messaging me, is it okay that I feel this way? Is this normal that I feel that way? Yes. Every feeling is normal. So don't panic about panicking. Don't freak out about your feelings. Just understand that this is how you're going to be feeling. We don't even know what's supposed to be normal in a situation like this because we've never had this before. So we're facing so many different concerns also that we don't normally face. There's economic concerns, there's health concerns. Our kids are home. Are they going to learn? When are they going back to school? What's going to be with my job? There's so many different things that we're facing that every reaction is normal. And remember that when you become reactive, you lose your ability to be rational. So it's really important that you say to yourself, okay, I'm feeling stressed out right now. I feel like, I don't know what's going on and I'm very scared. but that's okay. You know, it's normal that I'm going to feel scared because I see scarcity. I go to to Trader Joe's and the shelves are empty, and that scares me. I see shortages. I see people stocking up on toilet paper as if, like, I don't know what. It's so random.
By
and
the way,
it's
Scott
scary.
will be making more toilet paper, everybody.
there there will continue to be food and toilet paper and water, and Purell will get its supply back. It's made in America, guys. Like, it'll be okay. But I think that triggers a lot in people. So what we have to do is we have to, like, slow down. And you have to put yourself in that position to slow down, because only that way you'll be able to solve problems. If you're in that fight or flight mode, you can't do it, you know? So remembering also the social distancing stuff, that makes it hard for us also. We feel very isolated. That could trigger a lot of mental health and depression and stress and whatever. So there's a lot of people that are.
I want to ask you about the social distancing. So now they're telling all the kids to be home.
Yeah.
And I got an email from my kids' school saying, limit the play dates, but school's closed. So limit, that didn't say no. Does that mean and also after 2 weeks of quarantining, and after my friends' kids are quarantining, so can they quarantine then the rest of the 2 weeks together? Or how much should we listen? How much do we listen to the news? Are they overreacting? Are they underreacting? Guys,
Right.
That's what's going on in this head right now.
Right. So a lot of the emails that, at least that we've been getting in our community, they're being guided by medical experts and people that are like, they're experts in disease and epidemiology. So they're not just making it up, like, they're consulting with people that are, from the Department of Health and that are Center for Disease Control. So they're basing all their guidelines on that. And the guidelines that we got and that I'm sticking to very much, as hard as it is for my kids and for me, that there are no play dates, because it only takes one kid to make another kid sick. And that kid brings it into the house, and maybe there's an old person, or maybe and it just spreads and spreads and spreads. And what we need to do, because we don't have a vaccine and we don't have medication, is we have to stop the spread. And that's why we're social distancing. It seems like we're, detaching ourselves, and it's such a cold, terrible, awful thing, but it's really such an act of chesed and kindness, that we're saying, you know what, we're going to put ourselves in our houses, and we're not going to be socializing like we want to, and we're not going to be going to shul. Shul is like the center of our lives, right? We believe in communal prayer. When did we ever not go to shul on Shabbos? It just didn't happen, and then we have shuls closing down where people aren't reading from the Torah, and we're not saying Kaddish. And so we know that if rabbis and communities are deciding that this is such a threat that you can't go to shul, you can't get together with your friends. And just recently, we actually just got an email from our shul that was saying Pesach Seders are going to have to be at home without guests. Like, you have to just be with your family, your immediate family. You can't have extra people. This is not a joke. And I think that because they're putting these guidelines in place, we have to understand how serious this is. And if we follow these guidelines, then hopefully this will go away. But if we're not going to take it seriously, and we're going to be like, yeah, but my neighbor is literally like my family. My kids can go play with them. But your neighbor might be carrying that virus and give it to your child. And if your child then goes to across the street and stands too close to the old man, and then he gets it, and then God forbid, we're just spreading it, and we want to contain it. And the better we contain it, and if you look at all of the graphs that show, the better we contain it, the quicker it goes away. So we just have to follow the guidelines. And I know it's difficult, and I know it's hard for people, and they're thinking, how long is this going to go on? But if we don't follow the guidelines, it will never end. It will just keep going until there's a vaccine.
But somebody's just saying but everybody has to be on the same page, because
But I always say like this: you just have to be the leader. Don't be worried with what other people are doing. You have to do the right thing for yourself. And this is a life lesson. It doesn't matter. We can't be looking over our shoulder. Is she staying home? I don't care what she's doing. And this is something I would tell my kids also. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. We're doing the right thing, and we're protecting ourselves, and we're protecting other people. That's it. And we just have to focus on that we're doing the right thing. I can't be concerned that other people aren't listening. A, it's going to stress me out, right? And B, that's not my business. I'm going to follow the guidelines, and hopefully then I'll be an example. I'm one less person to have a play date with. So
Hasidic Kipser girl just asked a good question. So, like, it's sunshine. It was a sunny, beautiful day. So, yeah. I mean, I did, but did anybody go outside? Should they go outside?
Totally. Go outside. And that's something, again, that was in this email. Also, go outside, get sunlight, jog if you want to. Don't make a jogging group. Run by yourself. Take your kids on their bikes by themselves. If you have a backyard, take them in the backyard. You should be outside, getting fresh air, getting vitamin D. That's essential for your mental health. And thank God it's not the dead of winter now, right? It's the spring almost. In a couple of weeks, like, we can get outside. I think that's important. So play. Go for walks, structure that into your day, that you say, you know what, in the morning, maybe we'll go, you know, for 10 minutes for a walk in the morning and 10 minutes in the afternoon. And we just get outside and we move our bodies and we get fresh air, because you know what it's like to stay cooped up. I think something that's important also is every day, give yourself a structure. And I've seen a lot of these like fancy, colorful charts that are going around with like morning is playtime and then ballet and then violin lessons. And, you know, and I'm like, okay, we're not doing any of that in this house, you know?
By the way, I was going to say the same thing also with mom guilt. Like, let's be honest, guys, we're all going to go nuts. So, you know, it's okay.
Yeah, but, like, you don't need to have like pastry making and whatever on your menu.
I'm not a pastry making mom.
What you could do is just have structure, and that just means sleep time, wake time. Keep to the same schedule that your kids would have if they do have school. So if they're in bed at 8, guys, we're going to bed at 8 and we're waking up at 7. Maybe you could make it 7:30 if there's no bus to run to, you know? And we're getting up and we're davening and we're doing some schoolwork and we're having mealtime at the same times that you have them every day. Again, it doesn't have to be their school lunchtime, but like 12 o'clock we're eating lunch, and whatever I would normally pack you during the week, that's what we're going to have now, if it's available to you, obviously. Sticking to meal times, sleep times, wake times. In between, there could be some downtime where maybe they go outside, sidewalk chalk, you know, read a book outside on a bench, talk to a friend through FaceTime, you know, breaks like those.
I told my son today we could have a play date on FaceTime.
Totally, and they can, and I think they should have that. Like, I had my daughter FaceTime with a friend, and then she told me actually that tomorrow morning they're going to daven on FaceTime together.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
Cute and great, and that way she feels connected to her friend who normally they do daven in school together.
That's an excellent idea. Tomorrow I'm going to have my son call his friend and they'll have davening together.
Yeah, and then it feels like their day a little bit, you know? So as much as possible, try to give them like their regular stuff. You don't have to homeschool with, you know, whatever, but they can draw, they can paint, they can read, they can do Play-Doh. You can print out word searches for them to get their brains going. Crosswords, talk with them, right? When you're at your meals, like, you also take a break. So even if you're working from home, lunchtime, go and sit down with them for 10 minutes and talk about it. And in those conversations, you can say, like, how's it going, guys? How are you feeling? And you can let them know how you're
10 o'clock. Kidding.
You could let them know how you're feeling. You don't have to, obviously it shouldn't turn into a therapy session where you're like, oh my God, right? You don't want to scare them. But you could say, like,
that's a lot of people ask me, like, do we tell our kids to tell us when they're anxious, or are we going to cause them anxiety by just asking that question? Do we ask them?
No, always put it out there, guys. Whatever you're feeling, I want you to come and let's talk about it. You don't have to say, like, if you're feeling anxious, but just say, whatever you're feeling, let's talk about it. We could even make a coronavirus diary so that one day we can look back at this and you could look back with your kids and be like, guys, I lived through history. When I was a kid, this is what my life was like, you know? Like, it could be such an...
Isn't that exciting that we could tell? Listen, I had this with 9/11, guys. 9/11 was pretty traumatic, too.
Yeah, you know, we lived through something traumatic and scary, but, like, now we talk about it as, you know, a part of history, not that we're, like, proud of, but that we all remember where we were. We all remember how it affected us. We talk about it. It changed us. So they could even make a diary or a journal about what life is like for them. And then, you know, they can look back at it when they're older and, again, share it with their kids or grandkids, God willing, like, just something for them to do and a healthy way for them to, like, get their feelings out. And it also...
Mothers were asking also, though, about work. Like, for the mothers that have to still work from home, how do they handle it? And for the mothers that don't work now and they're not being paid, how do the mother, at that end of it, how the mother's dealing with all this?
Yeah. So I guess there's two pieces there. The mothers who are working, I say, if you have to work, if you need to put your kid on an iPad, or you need to give them your phone, or you need to, like, just let them, you know, like, color and paint and make messes and whatever, you do what you have to do to survive. This is not the time to be, like, you know, looking for awards of mom.
Give them the iPads, guys. It's okay.
Give them ignore those guidelines of screen time. There are no rules. the only rule is you need to survive and you need to be happy and your kids need to be happy. So whatever that means, again, we do want to have structure because kids thrive in structure. So, you know, you want to give, if you have to work and they need to watch on the iPad, then you could say, okay, I'm giving you iPad time for an hour. Then I want you to go play. Here's some Legos. Here's some, you don't want them glued to the screen all day. So if you can give them some, you know, play that's outside of the iPad. And again, because it is nice. And if you have a backyard,
a lot of people asked, they said some people were told that they could only play in their backyard. I don't think that's true. I mean, when they say go to the backyard, they mean places where there's not a lot of kids congregating, but you could take a walk on the street. I saw some Instagram person, she lives in Manhattan, she went to a big parking lot and she let her kid ride around the bicycle in the parking lot.
A scooter, a skateboard, whatever they have, like they can go around the neighborhood. You could like go in front of your house or on the, you know, on the sidewalks next to your house. They just don't want people getting together, playing in the park, especially the park where there's a lot of germs and whatever. And because germs can cling to those items in the parks, these pieces of equipment, but you can go outside, walk around your neighborhood, you know, let them, and if your kids are independent enough, depending where you live and whatever, that you would let them take a bike ride themselves, again, not to meet a friend, but just to go and be out and moving, then let them. It's not confined to your backyard. It's just, again, not, if you are going to be around people, you have to be within 6 feet. You know, like just not within close proximity. So yes, they should be going out. You should be talking to your friends, you mom. So if you're stuck home and you have to work, or if you're stuck home and you're not working now, and you're scared because your finances, you don't know what's going to be. This is a lot of people's concerns. Like, I'm not working. I only get paid if I'm at work and I can't go into work and I can't work remotely. What am I doing now, right? A lot of people feel very scared because their livelihood is being threatened.
Yeah, by the way, I think everybody financially is getting hit, but I keep telling myself the whole day, on Yom Kippur, when we asked Hashem to help us with Parnasa, that was part of the plan. And we as Jews, I think we believe in that. So like I said to my husband, this is our probably most important month of the year.
Right.
And it hurts, and it is what it is. Today was supposed to be the Brooklyn market. It is what it is, and it hurts big time, but it's part of the big plan. Maybe this month, where we expected it to be the best month, maybe that month will come after. We don't know. We just don't know.
And that's why I think is a really important point. I think that we're lucky that we have faith as like the core of who we are. Like, we have to just believe when there's nothing else. At the end of the day, you just have to say, there is a bigger plan and I'm going to be taken care of. And I have to believe that. How, I don't know. When, I don't know. But I mean, we also, again, know this is not going on forever. There is an end. We don't know when, but we just have to like hold on and believe that we're going to be okay. And I always say, you've survived 100% of your worst days and you've been through difficult times, and in the end, you're still here. This is no different, you know?
I also think it's also fear of the unknown. Like, if we would all know, you know, if a little angel would come down from the sky and tell us this is going to be over in 10 days, we would all sit our tushes down at home and we would say, good, we're sitting for 10 days. The question is, you have to believe in God, and it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It's,
you know what?
I woke up this morning feeling down, then I was up, then I was down.
And we don't know anything. And this, I see a lot of parallels for me, at least. And I know definitely for people who've been through difficult things before, like I went through secondary infertility. I talk about it a lot, and like just in general, I'm open about it.
So did I, by the way.
Okay. So we're sisters.
I lost 4.
Right. So you know that infertility, that's the thing that I would always say. If God would just drop me a note and be like, Rachel, by April 2000, whatever, you're going to have another baby, I'd be like, very cool. And I would wait. But there was the unknown. I didn't know.
Had that when I was single too. Like, if somebody would have came down and tell me, you'll be married at 26, I would have been fine.
Live your life, right? You would just wait it out and be patient. But there's so much, we think that we're in control all the time, but things like these remind us that we're not in control, and everything is unknown. And we think that if we put in the effort, we're going to see X results. But a lot of the time, that's not what happens. And times like these are reminders. And that's why it's so scary. Like, it doesn't matter what we do. At the end of the day, like, we don't have control. You know, we are not the final say in what happens. And I think that that's
scary. I had a friend of mine over Shabbos, Faggy, honey. She tells me, because I'm such a person that's so in control, that it's so hard for me, because like all our plans got changed. People's Pesach plans got changed. Like, I hope I could even have Pesach with my parents. I mean, which is a big thing for me, guys, by the way. My parents are already over 65, 70.
Same.
I don't know. I don't know. On Shabbos, we went to visit my parents, and I didn't bring my girls because they had a cold. And my father's like, "What do you mean? Go bring Rifki." I'm like, "We're not bringing Rifki." He's like, "What do you mean? Go get her." My husband's like, "We're not bringing her." So like, we did what's right. I hope, but it is hard. The whole thing is hard.
Yeah. So I think that, I think just remembering that nothing is known and we never have answers. I think that we kind of live in the illusion that we do. But I think that when we are reminded at times like these that we don't know for sure, we just have to kind of let go and let God, just say like, okay, I'm not in control, but what I am in control is right here, right now. I can control what I do with myself every single day. I can control, my wake up time, my sleep time, my lunch time, what I do with my kids. I can control my attitude. I can control how I relate to my spouse. And this is a big thing also.
Is it okay, by the way, to let our kids see, listen, we're human beings. And I'm not talking about the 5-year-olds and the 6-year-olds because maybe they don't understand. Hi, Shira. But what about the bigger kids or the teenagers in your house? Is it okay for them to see you upset, crying sometimes, anxious, or do you run into your room and you hide?
I think our kids need to see our humanity. I don't think we should be hysterical, and there are certain things that we don't want to tell them. So if you're terrified that you are going to be broke and homeless, I would not want your kids to know that. But you could say, I'm just worried because I don't know what's going to be and I feel scared. But at the end of the day, give them that message.
Good one.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I know we will be okay. Right now, I just feel like we're not. Our kids can see that we're scared because they feel scared too, So we don't have to be this like tough, like we're never doubting or whatever. We're human and we could share that with them. Again, we just have to be very careful about not being hysterical and just being like kind of like honest and calm with your sadness. They could know that you feel upset or scared because they do too. And I think even little kids, they don't have to know that you're scared, but you could say like, it makes me sad that we don't get to go to school. And it makes me sad that you don't get to go to school. And they should know why they're not going to school. We shouldn't hide it from them. Like we say that people are getting sick. And so we want to make sure everybody's safe. So we're staying home until the sickness goes away. And then you can go back to school. But we miss our friends and we miss seeing the Torah. And like we should make this real for them and honor their feelings. And it's such a beautiful way to teach kids also how to get their feelings out and how to verbalize how they feel instead of stuffing them down and pretending.
I had a hard time. My 7-year-old says to me, I want to play with so-and-so. And I'm like, but you can't. He's like, but why? I said, because. He goes, but I'm going to school tomorrow, right? I'm like, no, you're not going to school. It's very hard. My 7-year-old doesn't really understand like why, he understands. I had a little cough today. He's like, Mommy, are you okay?
Right. I think we just need to show a lot of empathy and we need to validate and we need to just explain like, yeah, it's really hard. It's hard for me too. I don't get to go talk to my friends outside. I don't get to meet my friends, at work. I don't get to meet my friend for coffee, whatever. It's hard. Yeah, I feel it too. But this is what we have to do. And
it's not also staying home. But like, I'm sure this is on a lot of people's minds also. How do we go buy our matzah? How do we go buy our meat, our chicken? They're telling us not to congregate, but have you seen? I heard what happened in Long Island today for my Galit. What do we do? What do people do?
Right. So, listen, for essentials, you have to go to the supermarket. So don't make it a family trip. One person goes at a time, so one of you decides that you're going with your list and you get your stuff and you go and you don't congregate and you don't schmooze in the store. You get your things and you go. We have to do that. Just like
do we wear masks and gloves in the store?
Masks and gloves, I do not think are necessary. And again, this is just also from the medical advice that we've been getting from this rabbi, Dr. Aaron Glatt. He's the head of contagious diseases and epidemiology at South Nassau, and he's the rabbi of our shul. So I really defer to him for everything. Masks and gloves are not necessary. And I actually think when I see people wearing them, don't need to be wearing them, it's very alarming and scary for people. So don't do that.
But on the other hand, our stores, people were concerned that if the workers are not wearing gloves, I actually went on Instagram to show people that our stores have gloves, our stores have Purell. If somebody wants to use them, they can use them. We're equipped. I went on a live today. I showed people I am wearing gloves.
Right.
But you're right. When I see people on the street wearing them,
yeah. Some Clorox wipes in your, it happens to be, I think almost all the supermarkets here have Purell wipes outside the store. You can wipe down your cart before you take it, and then you go in and it's clean. And it happens to be actually today when I was in one of the stores, when I pulled out a cart, it was like wet, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this, And then I realized there was bleach on the cart, and it actually ended up ruining my sweater because they were all the carts after people use them. So I was like, you know what? I'll keep the bleach stain. This is like my, this is like my reminder of Corona, but they're cleaning. So bring your wipes, wipe down your cart. That's not crazy.
I have
And
in
then
my car a bottle of Clorox wipes. So when I went to the shopping, whatever, I cleaned down the cart before I used it.
yeah, and I think that's fine. And again, not congregating, not schmoozing in the store and hugging your friend when you see her, just social distancing. So you can wave from afar, you get your stuff and you go home. One person, not a whole family trip. And we still have to be able to get the things we need. And I think that's also why people are panicking, because they think like, I can't go to the grocery store. But you can go to the grocery store. You just have to be strategic. Like you go and you get what you need and you come home. And in our grocery stores also, all the employees were wearing gloves. Like they're taking precautions to make sure that their employees stay safe. Because remember, they all have to show up to work every day and deal with us. And
that's always us. We also wanted to make sure, I kept telling my employees, make sure everything is wiped down and cleaned a couple of times a day. We need you guys healthy,
Yeah. Yeah. And they're putting themselves at risk every day too. And that's why I think also it's so important when you leave, like thank the cashier, thank the person who's bagging your groceries. They're like really on the front lines, like they're not just
point, by the way.
They're just
our pediatricians, they're coming home to their families and seeing sick people.
Yeah.
And so if you do have a cold and a cough, try not to go out, and not because you have corona, because if you're gonna
yes.
My daughter had strep. I didn't let her go to school, not because she had corona, because she had strep, and I didn't want her feeling a little ill in school, and I didn't want the teachers, who some over 60 and above, who even anybody to be like, oh my gosh, what does she have?
Yeah.
Just be smart.
Yeah. If you're not feeling well, stay home for sure.
Yeah,
even if
you don't need to buy the whole store, people.
No, don't buy the whole store. Again, I think that's also kind of like when we're buying the whole store, we're taking away from the people who maybe are not going to be able to go out at all and need that stuff picked up for them. So like, don't take away resources from people who will really need it. So I think that's really important to remember also. But again, thank your carrier, thank your cashiers, thank your doctors, thank your nurses. Like people are really taking care of us and we need to be grateful. But I think it's just important that we take care of our emotions with kindness, that we are not judging ourselves for the way we feel, that we understand that every emotion is normal. You need to talk. So if you are someone that has therapy, I know for me as a therapist, I'm offering virtual sessions now that we can do it through something that's kind of like Skype, but it's HIPAA compliant. So I'm seeing my clients from my home via video. Remember that with your spouse. I think this is very
great idea. If somebody, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with therapy, guys. I've visited or had a therapist. It's great to have that thing. So guys, take advantage of Rachel or whoever you feel comfortable with using. It's a good point. And if you've never used one, you may need one now.
Yeah. I think a lot of people who are not normally in therapy are really leaning on therapists now. And I think that's why things like these are so important, like where we're having the lives and therapists, so many therapists on Instagram are offering resources, and use them, like take advantage and take the things that you like and save them and screenshot them and keep them. And I think just something important to think about also is for your spouse, if he's at home or, and you're home also.
Yeah, by the way, a lot of people did ask me that. How do we deal with, a lot of people were saying like, okay, there's going to be a lot of corona babies in 9-10 months. But I think some people got to get to the corona baby stage.
So I think that there could be, I think there could also not be. So I think that it's just important for people to remember that it's you and your spouse versus the problem versus corona. It's not you versus your spouse. So when things get very tense, instead of starting to like fight with each other, remember, kind of like shift your mindset, like, okay, and you have to be aware. And that's why self-care is very important here. Like take a minute and step back and say like, why am I freaking out right now? Is it really that he's doing something that's making me upset? And maybe I could just stop for a minute and breathe and talk about it with him. Or is it that, yes, this is annoying me, but it's heightened annoyance because I am so stressed out about this situation that we're in. So maybe we could take a deep breath and we could stop and say,
I
okay.
think also it's like if you normally go out for dinner with your spouse, whether it's once a week, once a month, once in 6 months, and that time comes, or if, like me, have a birthday and you normally do things a different way, like sort of like that excitement of like doing things and going to the movies or going out for dinner or going for a walk. It's like there's so many other things that are on our mind now. It's like You know,
Yeah.
it's like somebody popped the balloon.
Yeah. So I say that you really have to just try to connect. And when you see that you guys are really like butting heads, you have to step back and say like, we're in a stressful situation and we need to take time maybe to go on a walk around the block and just like get some air together. We don't even have to talk. Let's just take a walk together, you
I'm
know?
going to ask a good question. Like, if you're okay, if you're in a safe space, but your spouse is very anxious, how do you deal with that spouse that's going through that?
Right. So I always say that you're not supposed to be your spouse's therapist at all. Like that's not your responsibility. You can validate and you could say, I get that this is hard for you. But you don't have to be the one to try to like carry them and make things better. So if your spouse is someone who's feeling anxious, but you could give them perspective and you could say, I'm also stressed out. Let's focus on what we can control. Let's focus on the here and now. Let's focus on today. Let's not focus on what's going to be 4 months from now because we don't even know what's going to be tomorrow. Let's just focus on today, getting through the day, getting lunch for the kids and getting lunch for ourselves and getting dinner and getting showered and hygiene is a big thing also. Like make sure you guys like you take care of yourselves, get dressed, shower, brush your teeth. Like keep your routines normal. Don't like sit around in pajamas because you're like, oh, I'm working from home. Make yourself feel like a human because again,
takeout. Like if you're home and you want to order takeout, is it safe to order takeout now?
So I've seen a couple mixed things. I've seen that it's better to have homemade food because you don't know. But again, restaurants are taking precautions. And I always say, like, even before this, they weren't so hygienic anyway, right? So, you know, you kind of throw caution to the wind and you decide. But again, a lot of places are delivering, but if not, they're saying pull up to the curb and either one person gets out or you tell them that they're there and they'll come out and bring it to you. So if it's easy for you to get takeout because you can't think of dinner and the kids want it and you could do it, do it. And if you can't do it, then it's eggs for dinner or cereal for dinner or pancakes for dinner. You just have to do whatever you need. And it's not a competition of like who's making like the yummiest, healthiest dinners and whatever. Health is whatever works for your family and whatever works for you because it's just about like
and guys should support our restaurant people because we're gonna need them when this is all over.
Totally, right? Yeah, and they're small businesses and they're going to suffer too. So if it's something that you can do financially and it's easy for you to do, like totally, you can still, they're accommodating us. They're saying we'll deliver and please don't forget us. So if it's something you could do, then it's one way to help, you know, other businesses that are also struggling.
By the way, what do you do about mikvahs? I know a lot of women are afraid. What do women do now?
So actually, the Yoetzet Halakha in the 5 Towns, Lisa Septimus, just did a Zoom call on this tonight, and she was saying that a lot of the mikvahs here are now saying that you should do all your preparations at home and just come into the mikvah and dip. So there's no bathing in the mikvah and there's no showering in the mikvah. So you just come, you dip, and you leave. The mikvahs are, you know, chlorinated and filtered, and so they're constantly cleaning. Also, even the way the mikvah woman handles you once you come into the mikvah is going to be different. So you'll remove your robe and she'll look, but she won't touch. She'll, you know, see if anything's there, and then you kind of have to remove anything, and then you go in. So things are being handled differently. But again, we have to remember in times like these, like the main point is to tovel in the mikvah. So it's not about like she has to make sure every little piece of skin is off your nails. Like we're in a time where we really just have to like stay safe, and it's about keeping people healthy and alive. So you're gonna just dip in the mikvah where normally it was like such a
not right. So people, I was told, they should not avoid going. I mean,
no. Yeah, as long as the mikvah is open, you go. And they're trying very hard to keep it open for women. They don't want to have to close it. For men, it's closed. You know, they shouldn't be going. But for women, it is open by appointment, at least here by appointment. And they're just treating it differently. All your preparations at home and just come in and dip and leave. So again, follow those guidelines. And they're saying if you're sick, do not come. Don't come to the mikvah until you're feeling better. Don't come in. Like it's not a holy thing. You're not doing anything good by endangering other people. And I think that's important to also about some of the shuls.
If you have any questions, ask your local rabbi.
Yes, ask your rabbi. But I think that's important also about, you know, people who want to make minyanim when rabbis are saying not to. Like, it's just not, we just need to just follow what the experts are telling us. And again, this is not about, we can't be thinking about ourselves and what we want to do. We need to be thinking about the community and the world at large. And we are people that very much believe that we are responsible for other people, that we believe that our actions impact other people. So even more so when we get guidelines like these, that you need to, to practice social distancing. You need to stay home. You need to not send your kids to school. You need to not go to a minyan, even if it's outdoors. You don't need to be going to a kiddush or a bar mitzvah or a wedding. You need to follow these guidelines. That's what we have to do. And again, we need to be leaders on our own. We need to be the ones that make the right decisions, and that we show our kids, it is hard. Sometimes that's what being a good person and being a leader is. It's making those tough decisions that aren't so easy to make, but we do because we know they're the right thing. And just remember that, like, we have to follow the doctors. Like, we're not smarter than the medical experts. Like, they're the ones that are studying the virus. They're the ones that study contagious disease. They're the ones with the information. We need to follow them, and we need to trust them. And I just, one day at a time, I think that's really important to just remember, one day at a time, do crosswords, journal, turn on music and dance with your kids.
Oh, that's a big one. I think everybody needs music.
Yes, music is amazing. Dance around the kitchen. It's great exercise. It's movement. It keeps the mood light, especially when you're feeling tense and stressed. And just remember also that a lot of research tells us that a lot of the things we worry about, I think that the stats are something like 97% of the things we worry about don't end up happening, or not in the way that we imagine. So just remember that all of the scary things you're imagining, they're probably not going to happen. And if we do what we're supposed to do, this will go away a lot sooner than later. So again, we don't know when, but for right now, they're telling us 4 weeks the schools are closed. Okay, so let's take it day by day until after Pesach, and let's just get to that point and see what happens there. But until that point, again, you put it on yourself. I'm going to be responsible, and I'm going to do what I have to do in order to keep myself and my family and the people that I love and the community safe. And I'm not going to be irresponsible, and I'm not going to be reckless, and I'm not going to think I know better. I'm just going to follow who I'm supposed to be following, and listening to those guidelines.
How do we not become hypochondriacs? I mean, literally, I had 3 friends of mine last night, including me, was like, oh my gosh, I have a cough, my nose is running, I have a sneeze. By the way, it is allergy season, everybody. And it also, the end of flu season, like flu season is till April, remember that. People are getting colds. The shift in weather also causes a lot of dry cough and runny nose. So it's not, even if you have a cough, it doesn't mean that you have coronavirus, or if you have a runny nose, it doesn't mean you have coronavirus. Like, there's a lot of symptoms that you have to have all together: a high fever, sore throat, aches. There has to be so many combined things. But somebody mentioned the CDC put out a checklist for you guys. I didn't see it, but they did show a checklist where you guys, again, I was with my pediatrician this morning for my daughter, and I said, I have a little cough. He's like, so? I'm like, should I get tested? He's like, no. So...
And a lot of doctors, even for people that have like runny nose, a cough, and like don't feel so good, they're telling them they don't need to get tested, because first of all, tests are very limited, right? We don't have so many. So right now, so they want to kind of conserve them for the cases that really need them. But also, if you have it and you're healthy, then just kind of put yourself in quarantine and let it pass. Like, you don't need any treatment. There's nothing to do for you anyway. You're not going to go to the hospital if you're not someone who's vulnerable in terms of your health. So go home in quarantine and let it pass, and don't pass it on to anyone else. And I think that, this is important. Again, the CDC following their guidelines and looking at their information, that's so important. Get the facts, not rumors, not misinformation. Facts can minimize your fear. So if you're taking your temperature 100 times a day, go on the CDC website and look and see what the guidelines are to determine whether or not you have coronavirus. And if you see that you don't have any of those things, then you're going to kind of have to give yourself response prevention therapy and say, A lot
of people they don't have major symptoms. I guess if somebody doesn't have major symptoms, then that's exactly why. If you have a cold, just stay home. Because I think there's actually a Jewish boy, I don't know from which state, that he created a up-to-date factual numbers of what's going on. What was very encouraging to me was how many people really have it, how many people recovered, and how many people actually didn't turn out well. It was such a small percentage compared. As of last night, it was, let's say, a low percentage of thousands, 4,000 or 5,000 deaths versus 76,000 people that recovered. That's a huge difference. So most people do recover. We got to keep remembering that.
And that even if you did get it, like I said, if you're healthy, you're gonna be fine. And that's what they keep telling us. We're not worried about Rachel getting the coronavirus. We're worried about her 90-year-old neighbor who's old, and or maybe her 60-year-old aunt who has asthma, or her 40-year-old cousin who had lung cancer, or her 60-year-old whatever with kidney issues. Like, that's who they're worried about, not me, not my healthy kids, thank God. They're not worried about me. They're worried about the people that could get sick and not recover. So even if you have it, if you're healthy, you have nothing to worry about, and you've had no prior health issues that you are compromised in your immunity or your respiratory, you have no respiratory issues, like, you're okay, So remember that. And I think it's just important for us to remember, like, focus on what I can control. These should be like your affirmations daily, and I'll write them in a post maybe.
Oh, that's a great idea. Thank you.
I'm focusing what I can control instead of what I cannot. You have no choice,
Focus on what I can control, not what I cannot. Okay.
So again, what I can control are that I brush my teeth, that I put on clothes, that I come downstairs, that I eat my breakfast, that I make a routine for myself. These are the things I can control. I cannot control the stock market. I cannot control the spread of corona, other than staying, that social distancing and being safe and being responsible, right? That's what I can control. I can control if I yell at my kids. I can control if I'm nice to my spouse. Those are the things I can control. I'm going to protect my peace by spending less time on social media, and I'm not watching the news, right? So the news is good sometimes, but a lot of the time what the media does is it likes to like hype us up by making us feel helpless, scared, because then we keep coming back.
Right. I have a question about that. I mean, a few years ago, there was the swine flu. I don't remember the swine flu. And I'm not sure if they're saying that the swine flu was just as bad, but we didn't do any of this. So is it because of social media, or is it because this is really worse than swine flu, or it's supposedly Obama called it a national emergency then too? I don't remember that.
So I remember swine flu because I was actually working in jail at the time when swine flu was happening, and there were people coming in off the street that were potentially, infected with swine flu, and they didn't want us, the clinicians, to be at risk. So they were fitting us for literally masks, like hazmat masks, and it was like alarming. I was like, what is happening here? Like, is it so bad? Because I didn't think it was so bad based on what I was seeing in the news, but they were making like a very big deal that it was like a massive, but also at that time, we didn't have WhatsApp. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have the access to media and news and information that we have like we do now. And I think that's a big part of it. And I think that's why everybody needs to just be responsible. And in terms of your media use and your news and what you're getting, and saying, like, I understand that news spreads so fast. Like, it's not like it used to be. So I'm going to make sure that I'm giving myself time limits. So you know what? I'm not going to be all day checking my WhatsApp group. I'll check it at the end of the night, or I'll check it only twice.
I need to shut my alerts from Fox News every second. I don't need to hear it every second.
Yes, mute your groups, don't get alerts or notifications from news channels or whatever it is. Really limiting your media and news exposure. I'm going to take the necessary precautions that I need, and I'm going to release the need to worry. I think that's a really important affirmation, just to say, like, I'm going to do my part and the rest is like out of my hands. And that's where the faith piece comes in. Like, if I'm doing my part and I'm being responsible and I'm listening to the guidelines that I was given, then I have to just believe that I will be okay, and I'm going to choose to be calm, and I'm going to choose faith over fear. I'm not going to be freaking out constantly. Again, if you freak out, that's okay. But then kind of recalibrating yourself. But now I'm calming down, because whatever I'm freaking out about, I can't change and I can't control. So again, going back to, but what can I control right now in this moment? Remembering that you're safe and trusting that you're going to be okay. So I think that's important. And remembering that your emotional stress, this is important also, by the way. If you stress yourself out, you could give yourself things that look like symptoms of corona. So you could get fatigue and muscle aches and memory issues, and not a fever, but stomach pain. And you could start making yourself think that you have some horrible illness, diarrhea, constipation. You can really affect yourself with your stress. So that's something important to remember. You need to keep your emotions at bay. Don't repress them, but deal with them, because it affects you physically. So if you're not feeling good, don't automatically be like, oh my God, I have corona. Say, am I taking care of myself? Am I dealing with my emotions, or am I stuffing them down? Am I talking to people? Am I going out and getting fresh air? Am I eating properly? Am I making sure that I'm having meals Because sometimes when you get stressed, you don't eat, or maybe, you have no
That's
appetite.
exercise. We're all going to get fat after this because we're all going to go to the refrigerator and nonstop eat, 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 eat.
You know what? If that's what you need
Exercise.
to do to get through this time, then eat. And don't shame I'm going to get too fat. I need to be dieting during this time. No, you don't. You need to just be taking care of your mind and your body. So if you get stressed and you go to the fridge, so be it. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up now. Oh, I can't. I need to get back to the gym. When's it going to be open? That's okay. You ate something, you're fine. And if that's what you need in the moment, fine. Again, if you're eating constantly because you're numbing and you're scared, I want to look at that and I want you to say, okay, maybe right now I need to talk to someone, or maybe I need to go out and get some fresh air. Maybe I don't need to be eating right now. Maybe I'm not hungry. I'm just stressed. But again, sometimes eating is part of our self-care. So if you gain a little weight during this time, like, that's okay. Your health is what matters. And if that's something that keeps you sane and makes you feel comforted, it's okay. So I think that's like really important that we remember that and keep that in mind.
And we should all be talking about Pesach recipes now because we're all going to be cooking.
Yes, and plan your Pesach menus. What a great time to get organized if you're all going to be home. And you should know that I stay home and I love it and it's amazing. So if you're scared, guys, it's really not so bad. It's amazing. Maybe you'll never want to go away again. You never know. And actually, one of the questions that someone sent me that I thought was a great question that I want to answer is, when my kids are fighting and I like want to freak out because like, oh my God, they've been trapped in the house and they're freaking out, like, and I want to scream at them, like, what do I do? Because I don't want to do that. And that's a great question. And
we all do it.
Relate to that. And I'm sure everybody's like, oh my God, yes, my kids are going to be killing each other. And it's funny, one of my kids was saying, she's like, at the end of this, like, there might be deaths because people are stuck in their houses together and they end up killing each other, So I was like, very possible, but I think that we need to remember that our mood affects theirs, right? So if they're fighting and stressed out and whatever, and they're all over each other, you need to take a deep breath. Maybe you don't have to deal with them in that moment, right? But you take a deep breath and you either let them fight it out and don't get involved. And this is like a parenting thing in general. You don't have to get involved in every fight your kids have. So you could tell them, guys, if you're going to fight, you need to take it to another room. I'm working and I don't want to hear it. So please go to a different room and fight. Like, that's it. And
I do that a lot. Okay?
Yeah, go fight somewhere else. It's fine. Because trying to break up the fight is probably just going to make it continue and it's going to stress you out. So guys, please go fight somewhere else. Or if you can remove yourself to a different room and don't listen to them. Or, if it is something that you have to break up, then you break up the fight. If someone's ripping someone's eyeballs out or whatever, you break them up. And you really just empathize and validate that this is stressful for them too. They feel like you feel, but times 100 because they don't have emotion regulation skills. They don't have the coping tools that you should have as an adult. So this is hard for them. And they want to see their friends. Like, kids need to play and be with friends. And they crave that structure of being in school. And
somebody just wrote to me, let's say, people that have special needs children or mothers with newborns. Yeah, for them, it's a challenge.
It's a lot. And yeah, especially with a special needs kid. And if you're looking forward to that time when everybody's out of the house and then you have that quiet and you could pay attention, this is really, really hard. So I'd say just remember that your mood affects them. And you're allowed to walk away also. You don't have to get in the middle of every fight. You don't have to break up you don't have to solve every conflict. Like, you can walk away a lot and you could be like, guys, you got to figure this out. Like, I'm not, if they come and telling and this one is so mean to me, and guys, you got to work it out. I'm sorry. I know this is hard. We're all cooped up and we're all going crazy. You have to work it out. And you're actually giving them a gift of learning how to work things out together. Half the time they end up just giving up and they're like, forget it. They don't want to work it out together and they move on. Other times they just figure out how to work it out between each other or give each other their space or whatever. These are great life skills. So if you kind of let them figure it out themselves instead of always refereeing their fights, you're giving them really good skills. So I think that's important. Minding your mood and understanding, are they feeling tense because I'm tense? And if not, they're just being kids, and I can let them just be kids. And I can say, guys, take your fight somewhere else. I'm
not going to tell our kids, let's say, homework. I mean, I know my kids don't have a set plan yet. My kids' school just got canceled today.
Right.
So I guess they're going to send out a plan. So some of them probably will have computer classes. The other ones will have, I'm assuming my 7-year-old is going to have class probably with a checklist. How do we get our kids to sit down and to actually do it or force them to do it?
So I think that if you let your kids know there's going to be a structure to every day, meaning, okay, guys, remember, we're getting up at the same time we normally get up. We're not sleeping until 10 o'clock. We get up, we're going to daven, we're going to have breakfast, and then for an hour, I want you to do some schoolwork. And then after that, you can have like, downtime or whatever. You just set time for them. You say from 10 to 11, you do your work or whatever it is you have to do. And again, even if they don't have formal work from school, you can print out stuff for them or give them the iPad and they could do.
Somebody said that on Instagram. There's somebody called Mora Corona. That is, if somebody wants the link, I'll pass the link. That they really posted some great things. Yeah,
she's a great page. There's a lot of teachers out there that are giving resources, but you can do Khan Academy. You could do, ABC Mouse for the younger kids. Like all these cute little apps that kids can do things on. Give them that for a little while. And they're educational. Like it's okay to give them that stuff. And again, printing stuff out on the computer for them to do or whatever it is, I think that's really important for them to be able to have.
Somebody's writing that it's very hard to live with OCD during Corona. If we have any tips for them.
Yeah. So this is actually something I addressed in one of my questions that I was doing the other night when I didn't ask me. So something that I tell people who deal with OCD is that you have to be very careful not to go above and beyond what is being recommended, right? And if you feel like you want to, take your temperature a million times because you're so worried and fearful that you are sick and that you're going to die, you have to prevent yourself from doing that. And that's, like I said, response prevention therapy. Don't let yourself do it. That's something that is used with OCD treatment. And if this, CDC says wash your hands for 20 seconds and done. And you don't do it more than that. If they tell you, social distancing 6 feet or whatever, that doesn't mean then that you walk around with like a shield in front of you and you're like, get away from me.
Like the picture that we all saw with the guy from Italy.
Yeah. You really just have to make yourself stick to the rules and don't let yourself go above and beyond. And again, that's going to take a lot of work, but that's what you have to do to take care of yourself.
Right.
So I think that really everything I wanted to cover. Again, I think that it's just important for us to know.
Somebody asked me how come certain communities are not taking it serious. No, don't put that. How many kids are not taking it seriously? I think first every community is following the guidelines from their mayor or their rabbanim, and I think sooner than later. In my neighborhood, one shul closed for Shabbos. My local shul did not. And then we heard somebody today has it there, so I'm sure they will. My father went to shul. He's above 70. I'm like, Top, please do not go to shul. He's like, what are you talking about? Whatever, I think that generation, by the way, we have to get to them because they don't listen. I think it's very hard for them to comprehend that.
I think that I think that we all, like I said, we need to be responsible. And I think that I've seen some people on Instagram saying, that we should ignore the recommendations. Not anyone that I know personally, just bigger, personalities on Instagram. I'm saying we should ignore recommendations and they're trying to be like, F coronavirus and whatever. And I'm like, that's not responsible. Yes, we feel like that. We're all like, we hate corona and we wish it would go away. But to say that you're going to lead your life normally and just pretend that it's not happening, that's not responsible. That's putting the most vulnerable people at risk. That's adding a burden to the healthcare system because when you're being complacent, then you are leading people to die and they didn't have to, just because you don't want to panic and you're trying to be all calm, you're putting people's lives at risk. So that's just not responsible.
By the way, what do someone's asking, what do they do about if there's a wedding or a vart and they're still inviting people and first of all, they feel guilty. I don't think people are going to be upset if you don't show up. I think they understand.
Yeah, you respect the decline.
By the way, they also feel responsible to invite you because they want to invite all their friends.
Maybe.
That's probably the best way to invite is to say, I'm inviting you, and I also understand if you're not going to come.
Yeah. And I would say you could just respectfully decline and again, be a leader. Be like, you know what, I'm reading all these, these recommendations and I really want to stick to them. And I don't want to put anyone at risk and mazel tov and we'll celebrate in the future. And that's something called boundaries. That's your own personal boundaries that you're sticking to. I don't feel comfortable and I don't need to put myself out just to make you happy. If I know that it's the wrong thing and I don't think it's safe for me or safe for other people,